Thanksgiving week whisper. There's a common misconception about Thanksgiving. A lot of American history textbooks teach us that the first Thanksgiving was about the Pilgrims and what they call the Indians, which is not the proper term. It's not the politically correct term. One of the more proper terms is Native American. And in more recent years, the term Native Indian has been used. Although that never made sense to me because, Indians are from India, and the first settlers called the natives of America Indians because they thought that they had landed in India. So that name just kind of stuck over many, many years. And only in recent times are we starting to use a more politically correct label. So I think, in my mind, Native Americans is probably the best term to use, and I'm not trying to insult any Native American by saying Native American, because I realize that maybe by saying Native American, one might get offended, because they might think, well, hey, my people, my ancestors were here first, and this wasn't called America. It was the white Europeans that settled, and formed the colonies, and then the colonists formed a government and then called this, America, or they formed it rather and called the United States. And so where was I? Yes. So the original Thanksgiving took place between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans. And the misconception is that they all sat down for the first Thanksgiving in 1621. Ate turkey together and broke cornbread and had a big feast to celebrate peace between the two groups. And more recent histories have shown that this story isn't entirely accurate. The Pilgrims and the Native Americans did sit down and share a meal, but it wasn't exactly intended. More recent analysis has shown that the Pilgrims were already celebrating. They were already having this Thanksgiving feast. And the reason why they were having such a large feast was because they had a very good harvest of crop that year. And by the way, if I didn't say so, this took place in Plymouth, which is now Massachusetts. Back then it was just known as Plymouth. It hadn't become Plymouth, Massachusetts yet. So the Pilgrims were already celebrating because of a good yield that year. And it's thought that the reason why the Native Americans joined the feast was because they probably heard the musket shots of the Pilgrims as they were hunting wildfowl like turkeys and ducks and geese, which were part of the Thanksgiving meal. And so it's thought that these Native Americans might have heard the sound of gunfire while the Pilgrims were hunting. And that's what attracted them to the dinner. And it's said that the Native Americans probably brought venison with them, deer meat, and they say it was probably on average like 6 research shows that the Native Americans probably came and went as they pleased, so they'd come and eat and participate in the festivities, and then they might leave, and then they might have come back later, or maybe different Native American groups passed by and participated in the meal. It wasn't as unified of a party or celebration, rather. It wasn't as unified of a celebration as, our middle school textbooks would like us to think. That's just kind of something that we teach kids to try to give them the shortest version of the story, because, when you learn this stuff, you're in third grade, like 7 or 8 years old, and it's tough for a kid to wrap their brain around, all the murder that really took place in our past. You're not going to tell a third grader, oh, well, when the Europeans came and settled in America, they, drove the Native Americans westward and stole their land, and those who refused to give up their land, they, beat, raped, and murdered, and scalped. You're not going to tell a kid that. You're going to try to give them the sugar-coated version of the story. You kind of want to spare them the truth. Sometimes it's kind of an adult thing. I understand that as I get older, you want to give kids hope. You want to teach the newest generation peace. You don't want to tell them about violence up front, because the truth can hurt. And I somewhat agree with that, and the other part of me doesn't. I can see how it's important to not, not necessarily corrupt, but telling the truth to kids at such a young age can be kind of damaging, because they're going to grow up even more cynical than they would have if they had just learned the truth in time. We do this all the time with kids. We skew the truth. Parents that are about to go through a divorce, they'll lie to their kids and tell them that everything is okay, because they don't want their kids to be upset. Or just in case any kids are watching this right now, I'll kind of paraphrase this next one. Around certain holidays like Christmas, we tell certain fairy tales about certain holiday figures, and we let our kids believe that these magical people are real, when in fact we're fabricating everything in order to give them a certain magic around the holidays, a certain magic that we as adults don't really feel anymore, because whether it's Christmas or Thanksgiving, we like to sugarcoat the truth. And in the case of Thanksgiving, we sugarcoat our history and our ancestry. We tell our children that, on Thanksgiving we're being thankful for the land that we have, this country that we live in. And then the fact that, our ancestors and our Native American, whether they be ancestors or neighbors, depending on your own personal ancestry or heritage, but that it's not so much reflecting on our past, but it's reflecting on our present and the fact that, we're able to afford a turkey and stuffing and apple pie and pumpkin pie and, everything that is on the table. That's about being thankful for having family and thankful for having friends and thankful for having money and thankful for having jobs. So, with that said, I hope I, gave you a decent history lesson. And I hope that if you are American this year on Thanksgiving, I hope you take some time to remember why Thanksgiving is really celebrated and how the truth about the first